For it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game. Take me out to the ball game. Take me out with the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks. I don't care if I ever get back. Let me root for the home team. If they don't win, it's a shame. For it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game.
Welcome to Let's Get To, the baseball podcast from the fans' perspective. Now here's your host, James Christopher.
And welcome to Let's Get To. I'm your host, James Christopher, and we have a lot of fun for you today. Andy Tom Chesson is here for a really fun Go Astros segment in which we talk about actual baseball. Spencer Schwartz is here. He is a Yankee mega fan, and we've been looking forward to talking to him, for a while now. He does his New York Yankee cap of the day, and I wanted to point out that we're talking Astros and Yankees because I thought it was a really good opportunity to kind of readdress what our show is about. Our show is baseball from the fans' perspective, right? We are here to be positive, welcoming, to allow people to be fans. And we do it under a couple of different premises that kind of fly in the face of the way baseball and sports are talked about, and then the way Twitter definitely is. Now, there is this impression, I think, for people that are heavy in Twitter, that the tone of Twitter is actually people's tone. And I don't think that's the case. I think that people are, for some reason, some embrace the ability to be an asshole, and they embrace the ability to kind of just be loud and mean because they get some kind of perverse jolly over it. And this is something I've talked about a bunch. This is my old man yells at cloud moment, but I don't understand it. And I was thinking about it, how our show has kind of stayed the same. Our tone is positive. We don't rip other teams. We discuss the sport. We celebrate fandom of in all forms. And I was trying to figure out why people take joy into making other people's lives miserable. And, I can only view the world through the world that I've lived, right? Like I can only look at things colored by my own experiences. And I'm pretty transparent about who I am, where I came from on this show. And I am an Army vet, and I spent time overseas in places no one should ever see. I have been a part of a patrol that discovered a mass grave in the middle of a genocide. I have had firefights and a hand grenade thrown at me. I have seen the results of a little boy who fell into a minefield. I come into this baseball thing looking from an escape of a world that I know is awful. When I see people turn into keyboard tough guy, most of the people from Barstool, let's be honest, those guys have never been punched in the face, and it shows. A lot of the people who want to be them on Twitter have never been punched in the face, and it shows. I don't understand the need or what drives someone to intentionally make people's lives miserable. You probably just heard a pop. That was my knee moving in and out of place because that's the cost of the life that I lived in the military. The fact is, our show is going to attempt to bring something nice to people. When I think about what our show can be, I think about Dylan Pacelli, somebody I met on Twitter who, big Yankee guy, and we got friendly during the ALCS. And despite how tense that got, I think that, I think we got friendly, and I have a lot of respect for that guy and know a little bit about his personal life and have even more respect for what he does. But it still blows my mind when I see people, just being mean. And this is coming from the guy who's kind of held up, right? Like, I am the Astros fan that other fans of fan bases will say, here, have a reasonable conversation with this guy because you can't with any other Astro fan. which is just obnoxious and wrong because many of the people that I love the most are Astros fans. There's this impression amongst Twitter baseball fans that Astros fans are knuckle-dragging Neanderthals and that there's only 3 or 4 good ones and I'm one of them. And that's absurd. For one, Houston's the most diverse city in the country. We are also the city literally made up of rocket scientists and medical like engineers, like people leading the fight. Beyond that. In January, when the sign stealing thing broke, I saw a Dodgers fan openly wish for Harvey to come back. And I saw a Yankee fan comment on the photo of a mom had posted a photo of a little kid with cancer meeting Jose Altuve and saying awful things. A Yankee fan. And the story about what happened to my grandson in a Target is well told. I don't need to rehearse. I wish I could get to the point where I'd tell that story anymore. Do I think all Dodgers fans are that way? Do I think all Yankee fans are that way? Do I think all Yankee fans are like Scotty talked about last week, throwing sodas at each other, or like the guy getting stuff thrown at him when he was in a urinal? Do I think that's everyone? No. Then quit thinking that an Astros fan who still likes their team and maybe is loud and obnoxious about it colors it for everyone. I love my team. I'm not that guy. Let's start being human to each other instead of sitting there and throwing bombs. And I wish it could just go this way, right? Like, I got a really great Astros souvenir with coasters that are essentially box scores of some of the greatest moments in Astros history. The game 5 in 2017 is one of them. I took the post down and I had to repost it because of all the unsolicited nonsense. I don't think you're tough. I don't even think you're funny. My first instinct, because I think this idea that I want to love everybody, I get this, like, people have this impression of me that I'm like, I don't know, some kind of hippie or that I'm weak. No, it's because I've seen stuff and my first instinct is to find you, which is dumb. So I have to fight my first instinct, which is to be mad, which is to find a way to destroy you and channel it into, no, we need to be better in the world because, again, the world sucks. We have a pandemic, the economy is collapsing, and we have a very, very long election cycle ahead of us. So I wish that I could just discuss Astros stuff with Astros fans, and I always do it in a nice, polite, respectful way without some jackass commenting, bang, bang, trash can, whatever. You're not clever, and it's done before, and you just come off like an idiot. Just like I wish my friends who are big Yankee fans, Aaron Judge on a tear, could celebrate Aaron Judge without having some Astros fan put Altuve's Chapman home run in the comments. There are 3, when we see something we don't like on social media that's relatively innocuous, we have 3 options. 1, say something positive and be nice. You might make someone's day. 2, ignore it. 3, go out of your way to be a jerk. 2 of those things are at least productive. One of those things, I'll never understand the logic behind it. And I think it's just someone who actually has some kind of angst built up, some kind of machismo thing they're trying to prove, but they don't really know how to prove it in real life. And so that's how they're going to behave online. And it's pathetic. There's really no other way around it. So that's the low point of the episode. Like I said, we got a great episode. Please stay with us. The Idaho Falls Chukars are here. Andrew Nelson is here with a Raiders of the Lost Diamond. We got a great show, so stay with us.
Who's on first? The Let's Get To Local 9. Brought to you by Zoomer Sport.
We are joined by the assistant GM of the Idaho Falls Chukars, Josh Michalsen. Josh, how's it going, man?
Jim, doing good. Thanks for having us on. I appreciate you taking the time, and hopefully some people learn about the Chukars today.
I hope so. And so I guess before we jump into what it's generally a family show, but I'll say what a goat screw 2020 has been. Tell me a little bit about yourself. I mean, you're wearing an Arizona Fall League hat. How did you get into baseball, like just from an interest level in the first place, and then end up working for an affiliated minor league baseball team?
Sure. So my name is Josh Michalsen. This is actually my 4th year, going into my 4th year with the Chukars. From Rockford, Illinois. So growing up, I had the Cubbies there in town, and they were the Rockford Reds then after that. So I always had minor league baseball, but never really thought I was going to get into minor league baseball. Played baseball. My first job was umpiring. So I actually umpired for 7 years while I was still in high school and into college. And then I played soccer and baseball growing up. I tore my Achilles actually at end of my sophomore season playing soccer. So that put me out for a little while, but they had a career fair at school my sophomore year, which was our first year we could actually attend that. And so I found out I could do sports management and kind of took that route, and I never looked back. So I went to junior college in Rockford, Illinois, Rock Valley for 2 years. I worked in the athletic department there. They had just opened a brand new athletic facility, weight room. And so I kind of was in charge of that. And then that kind of transitioned into I helped coach and do stuff with the football team. And then ultimately doing stuff with the basketball team. So transferred to Grand Canyon University, moved to Phoenix, went there for 2 years. I was actually the first graduate of their sports management program.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Sports. So, yeah, and I didn't even realize it. I wanted to get out of there early. So I was the first person of our class because they do it by nursing and then sports management.
Right.
So I'm like, I just want to do this, get out of there. The guy comes up, hands me, he goes, "Hey, you're going to be the first one." And then about 3 weeks later, I realized, oh, we're the first graduating class ever. And I was the first person to walk. And so I'm like, awesome. I guess I'm the first ever graduate of that program. So
a pioneer.
The pioneer of the Colangelo sports management program. Yeah, that was awesome. So I did that I was there for 2 years, worked in the athletic department there, game day, which gave me kind of a whole spectrum of basketball, baseball, volleyball, lacrosse, soccer. We did it all, kind of small staffs. And so it was just whatever sport was going on that day was what we were doing. Ultimately then transitioned into my job with I worked for the Arizona Cardinals for 4 years in their food and beverage department doing locker room catering, which is kind of where the whole fun of being around the players and kind of interacting with those guys and getting to know those guys started. Got a job with the Arizona Fall League, worked there for 4 years with the Scorpions for 2 years, won the championship 2015. And then I was working spring training for MLB Advanced Media, doing pace of play. So all this stuff that you're now seeing with the runner on second and the pitch clocks that have been coming into play here the last couple of years, we were actually testing those back in 2013 in spring training and with the Fall League. Fall League, I worked for the actual Fall League, but they were still incorporating that on the advanced media side. But I did that for 3 years. That was a lot of fun. I got to work all the spring training games down in Arizona every year. And then I got this job 2017. So I worked spring training 2017. I was supposed to work the national championship, but then I got this job. So I had to come up here, which was kind of bittersweet, but obviously full-time job, my first job in baseball. Been up here the last, like I said, 4 years now. Love it. Kind of get to do everything. So it's kind of weird because most normally when you work in sports, you have one specific job, but working in college with sports, I had, you wear many hats, and then working in the Fall League, you wear many hats, and then coming up and working in short season, we only have a staff. When I started, it was me, my boss, and our VP. We've since then added 2 people, and we'll get a radio person and an intern or 2 during the year. But for the most part, it was just us 3, us 4, and then now us 5 here at the ballpark. So you kind of get to wear a bunch of different hats here too.
So you guys are the rookie advanced affiliate for the Kansas City Royals, which is, generally speaking, one of the best farm systems. I mean, to the point that you guys won the championship last year, I think, right?
Yep.
2 rings for you already in your baseball career. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, 2 out of 5. So it was, and it's weird too because it's either one way or the other. I'm either in first or last, because the other years we were in last place, and we had, I think we had like an 8 ERA my first year here. And then the second year of the Fall League, when I was with the Scorpions in 2016, we had TiVo. We were in last overall for the year too. So it's either first or last. There's no in between for me at all.
That's what they call pure outcome baseball is all you're doing. Talk to me a little bit about the team in Idaho Falls, though, and what it means to the community. And, I think that's the one thing where, there's a lot of stories going on about what could happen to the future of minor league baseball. And I think people that are sort of maybe missing what these teams mean to these communities that they're in.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm sure a lot of people haven't been to Idaho Falls. I'd never even been to Idaho until moving up here. I'd never been to Utah until I drove through moving up here. But, you don't really realize it because being from Rockford, being so close to Chicago, and being from a bigger city, and then living in Arizona, you're in these big city, areas where there's so much stuff going on. When I lived in Phoenix, there was, football and basketball and baseball and hockey and college sports, and there's just so much to choose from. Here, this is really it. I mean, you have Idaho State down in Pocatello, which is about a 40-minute drive south. But other than that, I mean, they have the rodeo that they do during the summer and the fair. fair. Obviously, you're not getting tons of sports, but this is really it. Tons of people that I've met over the last 4 years now that aren't even baseball fans, they'll still even just come out to the game because it's something to do with their families, and they become Royals fans. There's so many people in this town that are Royals fans that wouldn't have been Royals fans if it wasn't for the Chukars. And hey, my kid met Mike Moustakis or Eric Hosmer when they played here back in, or Billy Butler, who now lives in Idaho Falls, who we'll see out at the games and see around town and stuff like that. So I know he met his wife here. If it wouldn't have been for Chukars baseball and minor league baseball, he would have never met his wife and started his family, coming as a high school guy out of Florida. So, a lot of guys started here. I know we have a lot of alumni that are now in the big leagues and that have played in the big leagues, even going back to, Joe Madden was here, Billy Martin, Jose Canseco. I mean, going back, tons of guys that have started their career here, even front office side too, with the affiliates we've had that have come through here where, hey, I started my video scouting job with the A's or the Angels back in the day, and now I'm working for a big league team. So there's been tons and tons of baseball minds that have come through here from the playing side, coaching, front office, that are now working elsewhere in baseball. So it's a big deal out here, and it would be tough on this community, like I said, especially with a lot of them being Royals fans because of the Chukars, if anything were to happen. But we're pretty confident that baseball is going to be back here next year in some capacity, and hopefully, we enjoy our partnership with the Royals. But obviously, if things have to change, operational wise, it's out of our hands, and we don't really know anything more than the casual fan does as to what's going on. So as soon as Major League and minor league baseball can come to an agreement, hopefully soon, we'll be able to get rolling for next year. But there will be baseball in some capacity here next year for the fans.
And I know that I will be out there, and I'm excited to get out there. Talk to me a little bit about this year, because one of the things that really impressed me by your organization, and you guys never left for as much as there was all this uncertainty with, you talked about growing up big city. I grew up in the Astrodome, and for the first time ever, my wife had given me spring training tickets to go to watch the Astros. And 2 days before we flew out, this all started. So, you guys really have done a good job, though, with all the uncertainty, staying engaged. How important was it to you to make sure your fans knew that y'all were still here, that you guys were still doing whatever you could for the community?
I mean, we try to be engaged as much as we can. Obviously, like I said, being short-staffed, we all kind of wear multiple hats. So there's some days where, you're out doing field work, or, you're busy in the ticket office or whatever it may be, or we don't have the chance, where some teams have a social media person. That's all that they do. Majority of the time, I handle most of that, but, we have the radio people that come in, and the interns, and a couple other people in the office help out with certain things, when we get busy. But, not having a season, or preparing to not have a season, because we didn't know. We were under the assumption that we weren't going to have a season from what we were hearing, and just not getting an answer back. And kind of once the draft went down to 5 rounds, we kind of were expecting that, but we didn't really know until, I don't know, maybe 3 weeks before our actual season was going to start. For us, it wasn't as bad, I don't think, as some of the full season teams, because with them starting in April, they had it to, hey, we're keep getting pushed back or delayed, but we're still planning for our season to start on time until we're told otherwise, being short season. But we kind of knew, as time went on, the likelihood of us having a season probably wasn't going to happen. So I think it was probably about the second week of May, we all sat down and said, hey, what can we do? How can we, keep things going here so we can all stay around? I know a lot of teams furloughed employees at that point in time. We were fortunate that we didn't have to. We actually added some employees because we had stuff going on here in the summer, but sat back down. The local American Legion baseball team, American Legion, got canceled, but those guys kind of came together. So we still had a season, put together kind of like a tournament style 20-game doubleheader season for those guys. We were fortunate that they won the American Legion World Series last year. So from a sales point and a selling point, that was kind of a good push for us to be able to say, hey, come out and see those guys play. Plus, it's the local high school guys here in town, the better of the local high school guys. So a lot of interest here with there, like I said, not being tons of sports. A lot of people know who those guys are. So we were doing well. We just recently got rolled back into phase 3. So the last 2 weeks here, we've only been able to allow 150 people in. But prior to that, we were okayed for about 1,000 to 1,100 people in at the ballpark. So like you said, just trying to stay engaged with social media. It's something easy we can do because, these games don't start until 5, and we basically have a full day that we would be using to prepare for a Chukars game, getting the field ready, getting, everything set up. But now we've kind of been able to have some more time to engage with the fans. And once that whole thing kind of started up with, we'll first team to comment or follow us back, we'll buy, I think that kind of just took off like wildfire, and it was easy for us. We turned notifications on, and me and our radio guy we have in here just sat both of our computers, and every time we got a notification that turned on, it's like, all right, have a GIF ready or have something ready to go. And I think we ended up getting like 25 sales from that. And
that's so great. Yeah.
Then that led to our idea about follow back for a hat, which is then ultimately led now to our best online merch sales we've ever had, only because of this whole social media thing. So it's crazy how one thing can take off like that. And it was super beneficial for us because we wouldn't have made any of that money otherwise not having a season.
One of the things that because so much of what prompted this show is I'm a filmmaker by trade, and when would be at film festivals, you got to get away from that. So I would go find baseball, and that kind of led to this show. One of the things that I've learned is how loyal minor league baseball fans are to the ecosystem and to the sport. And the follow back from the hat thing, that's been an incredible success for it seems like the sport itself, but also for you guys.
Yeah, definitely. I think, I don't know what the total number was. We put together a little case study for minor league baseball because I didn't even realize until like really digging into it, how you can see all these like analytical numbers on. And I'm not a huge analytical guy. That's why I kind of didn't get into scouting. That's why I went front office side, because I'm old school baseball.
Right.
This DH thing, although granted I'm a Cubs fan, so I guess for us it's kind of good. So I can't really complain too much from the fan side, but from like the overall baseball side, this National League DH thing is killing me. I want to see these pitchers going out there and swinging.
Yes. Well, you got to remember, I am a DH guy who got forced to be a DH guy, right? Like,
sure. Well, I mean, I remember my setting my second or third game. I remember seeing Craig Biggio and Jeff Bagwell at Wrigley. So I remember when they were still in the NL. So
yeah, no, and it was, in fact, you think about the Astros thing with Joe Kelly, like, in the National League, you got to bat again, son. So you can get all, you know what I mean? It was just like part of me was like my guts were being ripped out by all that. But, let's.
But anyways, going back in. Sorry, I got.
Sorry,
going back into the analytics side of it. I mean, last time I checked, and there's still a couple of days left in doing this, we had over 450,000 impressions. In the month of doing this. And for us, I mean, I think we only have like 8,200 followers. It's been something I've been trying to, bump up and just get people. I mean, because I'll admit to it too, like I didn't even really know Idaho Falls, the Pioneers, tons, even really that there was other teams that were in the league until I got here and got this job. And so I just want to be able to, raise awareness and, even sending stuff out that last month, because I handle all of our online merch stuff. I don't think I sent any packages. I think we had one person in Utah that we had gotten from the social media, but every package I sent out were in states that weren't even close to here.
Oh, that's
so
awesome.
Trying to raise awareness out on the East Coast and trying to pair up with some of these teams that, would normally, they'd have nothing to do with what we're doing and we'd have nothing to do with what they're doing. And so now all of a sudden we're seeing fans from, Florida and New York and stuff like that, because we're partnering with these teams for this follow back for a hat. And I think it's great awareness, not only for us, but for all these other teams too, where you're seeing all these fans that are so surprised, like, hey, I didn't really know what this was at first, but, now I'm a huge, Jupiter fan, or now I'm a huge, Daytona fan, because I now have their hat that I get to rock and, support. And hopefully the people that got our Chukars hats will wear those proudly. And, we now have some Chukars fans in Minnesota and in Nevada and out in New York and stuff like that. So it was awesome. And, hopefully we'll continue to be able to do stuff like that. I love doing the kind of collab efforts with these teams. And I think we might try to maybe move it to Instagram here and see if we have the same success. So might have something new in the works, but I need a week off to kind of relax. And we had an 18-game tournament here this weekend. So between that and 3 weeks to follow back for the hat, my brain needs a little bit of a break.
A little bit of a break. But it's been, again, you guys have been one of the best at it. And when I saw whoever was making the mass graphic and all the logo, it was really, really cool to see you guys sort of always be on there and then see more logos get added. It was pretty neat. But let's fast forward to 2021 and we get a more normal season. How much is it going to mean to you, your staff, and then the fans to finally get back out to the ballpark and watch a normal game with a normal amount of people?
we're really excited. I mean, we were really excited this year coming off the championship. We had tons of awesome promotions planned, and I know we had a championship celebration weekend that we had planned to kick off the season. This was going to be our first year participating in the COPA program, so we were really excited about, being the first ever female identity, and we were going to be playing against Rocky Mountain Vibes, who also have a primary female logo too. So we actually had a game planned in August that was going to be the first ever game where both logos were female identities in any of the major four North American sports. So we have that to look forward to next year as well. And then, like I said, tons of great giveaways. And obviously with the season being postponed this year until next year, we had to put all that on hold. But I know all the fans are eager and looking forward to it. And, even getting some of those stuff that we were supposed to give away this year. And it's like, man, I was looking forward to doing that. We just got some of our blankets with the championship celebration on there and that we were supposed to give away this year in the mail the other day. So just seeing all that stuff gets you excited, and just having baseball out. I mean, just being a baseball fan in general, after I leave, I mean, I usually go home and watch the Cubs game or watch whatever that late, West Coast game is. So I'm watching, a game or two every single day. So it's just been hard for me, and I'm happy that it's back because now I can, sit and watch the high school and the Legion guys here. And, now MLB's back, so we can sit and watch that. And hopefully we can stick around here for a little bit, and basketball and baseball and hockey and hopefully football will be able to start up here and bring some sanity back to everybody that had to put sports on hold for 3 months.
From the Bleachers, the Let's Get To Game of the Week.
All right, so this is Jim and Jessica. We are still here at Constellation Field, home of the Sugarland Skeeters in the Constellation Energy League. We are here for Harry Potter night. We're talking a little bit about that later, but now...
I should have worn my scarf.
You should have worn your scarf.
Sorry. I'll do it next time.
We'll do it next time. We're shooting.
Didn't mean to interrupt you.
It's a work in progress, everyone. But it's Holler and a Swaller time, which is our ballpark brews dedicated to the hitter sports. You should follow him on Twitter if you want some spicy baseball talk.
Well, spicy talk, but that's why we have the Swaller for him.
The Swaller is for him. So what are you drinking?
I am drinking the Karbach Brewing Company's Love Street, which is their Kolsch style blonde.
I prefer brunettes.
Thank you.
And I'm drinking the Crawford Bock, which is one of my go-tos at any ballpark where I can find it. All right, so toast to the Skeeters and to you and to the hitter.
Holler and a Swaller.
Holler and a Swaller, baby. All right, we are out here with Let's Get To. We are coming to you live-ish from Constellation Field, home of the Sugarland Skeeters and the Constellation Energy League. I'm with my co-host and wife, Jessica Ivy Judges. This is our first time together here.
First time together, but we've both been here separately with each other, without each other. Yes.
Weird.
I guess so.
Yeah. We got the super cool scarf things. Overall, how do you think they pulled off Harry Potter night?
It's been a lot of fun. Of course, they had Schwartzen, their mascot. He had the whole garb and outfit on. The players had the outfit. The uniforms were all Hogwarted out.
Hogwarted.
They've been showing clips and music, of course, from the actual movie. And
music that we are not intentionally losing in our show, so please don't sue us.
We can't help it. It's just in the background. But yeah, it's been great. It's been a lot of fun.
So we did the whole club thing because usually
it's hot.
It's hot, but it was nice tonight.
It's August in Houston, Texas. You expect to be sweltering at all times, but it's been a lovely evening. A rare
evening. Food for the Prosperity Club. Thoughts?
That was really great. They had a buffet style situation, so we were able to have barbecue, mac and cheese, green beans, and then they also had a hot dog station. They had an odd fish station, so it was good. But yeah, we had a good time. Great time. And ice cream as well.
Yeah, the free ice cream is pretty sweet.
So.
I guess free. You pay for the thing.
Yeah.
The big conversation in all of baseball right now is COVID. Overall, how have they handled their adaptations to the coronavirus?
Very well, similar to what we've seen at Dell Diamond and some other stadiums that we've been to. They're doing the every other row situation, have it blocked off, where we're pretty much in a little bit of a row by ourselves. So masks are required on the concourse, separation between when you're standing in line, limiting the number of people who can go in the gift shop. So doing a really good job of keeping everybody safe.
And the game tonight was a pretty big blowout, 8-3. Ball was flying.
So a lot of home runs this evening, which was a lot of fun. Although we were really hoping it was tied in the top of the seventh.
Going into the top of the seventh.
7-inning games because we're doing a doubleheader tonight. So we were tied at 3. We thought maybe we were going to get to see the home run derby to get that out, but no, they kind of blew up in the 7th. So
yeah, and one of the downsides to having such a small park as a social distancing is you could hear every single jackass that has something to say about the game. And I'm going to cut this segment and go find that dude.
It's been a lot. It's been a lot of ribbing coming from the stands, which seems unnecessary right now.
On deck, the Let's Get To interview, brought to you by Fine Line Sportswear.
All right, so we're excited to welcome to the interview of the week. I'm going to be honest, one of the nicest guys on Twitter, and that's saying something. Mr. Spencer Schwartz. Spencer, how's it going?
It's going well, James. Thanks so much for having me on tonight. I'm really excited to be here.
Hey, thank you so much for being on. And, let's talk New York Yankees, because you are as passionate and also as educated a Yankee fan as I've come across. I mean, how long have you been a Yankee fan?
I've been a Yankee fan since I was a kid. I trace it back to when I was about 7 years old. At that time, it was the late 70s. Willie Randolph. Reggie Jackson was my favorite player growing up. I do recall when I was first introduced to it by a couple of neighborhood kids. I didn't like baseball too much. I don't really know how I got the hook, but it got me, and I've been a fan for about 40 years now. Yeah.
It's funny because I think, because obviously the Yankees are they are the Dallas Cowboys of baseball, or they are the Notre Dame of baseball. And even I had favorite Yankee, like Don Mattingly was maybe my first non-Astros favorite player. So
sure.
Those pinstripes, man.
There you are. I see you.
There I am. Okay. So yeah, this is the castle.
Wonderful.
So how long have you been a season ticket holder?
I've been a season ticket holder. This is my 21st season. And it's one of the best things that I ever did. When I graduated from dental school, I'm a dentist, as you guys know, only by day. It was one of the first gifts that I bought for me, like a little graduation present. What prompted me to do it was in 1998, I went to the World Series. And back then, you had to go to the stadium, go wait on a big line, hope that you got a wristband with a number, then go back online again, then just hope that, there were enough tickets left for you to buy. So I did that, and then I wanted to do it again for 1999. I wasn't lucky in 1999, very disappointed.
Oh.
So that's when I said, you know what, enough of this standing online. I'm going to become a season ticket holder. I'll get a plan that I can afford to make sure that I get postseason tickets. And I've been a season ticket holder ever since, and I've seen a lot of big games.
A lot of big games. What are some of the biggest like top of your head when you think Yankee season ticket holder? What are some of the stuff you've seen?
Well, when I'm asked what is the biggest moment, that's really hard to decipher. But if I had to bring it down to one moment, it was definitely when Tino Martinez hit his game-tying home run, Game 4 of the World Series. And the reason why I cite that is because the Yankees were losing 3-1. They were on the verge of going down 3-1 versus the Arizona Diamondbacks, which was a shock to Yankee fans. We looked at the Arizona Diamondbacks as no competition. I had started getting up at the time. My sister went with me to the game. There was an out, a runner on base, and we were slowly walking our way out of the bleachers. Tino hits the ball. All of a sudden, it's coming right at me. It's coming right at me. And the stadium went from a funeral to a party. And just the way it woke up in that instant was just so remarkable to me. I will never forget that moment. And I was there for Aaron Boone. I was there for the 2009 World Series. You name it, I was there. But that is the singular moment that was the greatest moment of my life.
I love how that, it's funny to me because you could have picked a lot of moments, but that one meant a lot to the country too at that time, which I think really, and I think it's something sad that we're not getting now. Like we're in a very weird thing where I'm sure you've been watching the games. I've been watching the Astros, and it feels weird, right? Because there's no one there. But how important is baseball, do you think, to us getting back to some semblance of normalcy?
Oh, I think it's very normal. I've asked myself that question, and when you dissect it, and I'm a guy that likes to break things down. I like to understand the meaning of things. For guys like us, baseball has just been a constant. It's a constant in our lives. It's always been there in one shape or form. So it's very normal. It's normal like the sun rises, like the air that you breathe. It's always there. I just couldn't imagine a world without baseball. So when baseball was gone, I really miss it. And I will be honest with you, James, when they started, when they started the summer camps, I got a little whimsy, I got a little choked up, Now I didn't start flooding tears or anything, but I feel that way. That's my attachment to baseball. And when they played the first game, I felt that. I felt that excitement. Whatever it was that tapped into me when I was a little kid, that's still there. And I think it's there for a lot of people that love baseball fans, especially guys our age, people that are older than us. That's just the way it is. There's an emotional attachment there, and I felt it. Can't get rid of it.
Man, I'm so on the same page. And I had even sarcastically said that I was opting out of the season. That was, and I got so many people like, shut up. You're not opting out. And of course I wasn't. The minute I was like, oh, is the game on? And I was just, getting that worked out. It's funny because I got to
take baseball out of you.
You really can. And it's this game that we love and hate. And I think it's always interesting to talk to really diehard educated Yankee fans, because the history of most other team, the things I remember most in my history of Astros fandom is pain, right?
Yeah.
It's it almost happened for us and then it didn't, or this or that.
Yeah.
But what moments really kind of stabbed you in the heart, even though you've had mostly success?
Definitely the 2001 World Series again. I still see Luis Gonzalez's ball going over the infield because that was such a monumental moment. The Yankees were on the verge of their fourth World Series in a row, and that is such a rarity in sports. To get that close to such an accomplishment, and then to lose it like that. I mean, it was really heartbreaking. But you also can't discount, as a Yankee fan, Game 7 of the 2004 ALCS. And I tell you, it was a heck of a thing as the Red Sox, were on the verge of coming back. I mean, that is a real kick in the gut, that's a very, very close second, where it's like 1 and 1A. That's 1A for me.
I remember that 2001 World Series because I was in the military at the time. And of course we're dealing with, I'm getting found out where I'm about to go after 9/11, all this stuff. And I do feel like, even though I grew up loving Luis Gonzalez and Steve Finley from their time in Houston, everybody was rooting for the Yankee. Like, it would have been perfect if that could have happened.
Yeah. And a lot of Yankee fans felt that way also. Credit to the Diamondbacks, though. They were a very, very good team, very, very good hitters. I think the Yankees were very lucky to be able to push that series to 7, just the way that it looked. A couple lucky swings really turned that series around and made it a series.
Ain't baseball fun. So this past year I got to cover the winter meetings, and I was in the winter meetings when Cole got signed. So what went through your head when the best, honestly, the best pitcher on the planet right now became a Yankee?
When it finally happened, I had this very tempered excitement. The reason why is because I really tried to keep things in check. Like when we say we're going to go out and get this player, we're going to go out and get that player, this is going to happen, that's going to happen. I am definitely a guy that tries to keep things on the level. I'm a don't believe it happens until it happens. And so when I finally heard the news, I think what it is that you restrain yourself so much that when it finally happens, you're sort of cautious in allowing that type of enthusiasm. And there's still a little bit of caution also because you think, okay, he comes to New York. And I went on Twitter and said this, he comes to New York, had it not been for coronavirus, I would have predicted, he might be rocky in the first half of the season. That often happens to pitchers when they first sign with the Yankees, especially when you get a big contract and you're under a lot of pressure. And I had just read the book by David Cohen as well. And he drew on that also. He said, it's nerve-wracking for pitchers. So I said, okay, we got Cole. It's really great, but it might take a little bit of time for him to settle in, to get into his groove. But he's really done very well in this season so far. So it was exciting, and you feel really good. You really like your chances about what he can do for this team.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that I was talking to Yankee fans that are friends of mine, I was like, even if, because he had a rough start with the Astros last year.
Right.
It's a 6 or 7 year decision that's gonna pay off.
Yeah.
Whether it pays off 2019 or 2020, because like you said, there's a lot of variables that you just don't know. Although
Oh yeah.
You know, he looks in mid-season form right now. I don't think you have much
really
to
looks
worry about.
lights out tonight. Yeah, so it's been a great acquisition.
So one of the things that you've been, and this is why I really wanted to have you on the show, is you've been a real bright spot for me because the cap of the day, man, and in the picks with your, what prompted you to start that? Like, because there are people that are not Yankee fans that are like, there's a little bit of positivity in the world with you doing it.
Really what it started is that I love caps. And when I started going on Twitter and seeking out more Yankee fans, the way that I like to express my enthusiasm for the Yankees is with hats. I'm a hat guy. I love caps. I've got over 800 in my collection. And James, I got to tell you, there are hat collectors out there that have like thousands of hats. So my 800 is still medium, you know.
I'm going to record this to an MP3, and every time a new box arrives to my house, I'm just going to play it for my wife and be like, listen, my 80 caps is better. So I'm sorry.
Tell your wife if she wants the man, she's got to take the caps.
That's right.
But I just started posting it, and really my intent was to see if other people will post maybe their hats, or maybe somebody likes to wear a jersey of the day or something. That's really what it all started out as. And I just kept doing it. And what really blew me away was the response. I get about, 1,000 to 2,000, clicks or looks a day. I mean, that's stunning for me. I'm a regular guy. I'm a regular fan, and to see that, that many people, have at least that much of a little interest to see what it is that you're posting. And the enthusiasm I've gotten, the comments that I receive, it's really it's overwhelming, and it's unbelievable, and it just it prompts me to keep doing it. And as long as people are enjoying it, I'll post it.
I mean, I'll tell you, I've gotten to the point where I start to look forward to it. Like it really is, because obviously my fan base is very complicated because a lot of them are trolls, and then a lot of us are getting trolled. It's always nice to deal with some degree of positivity because I didn't bang a single trash can. I don't know why you're yelling at me. So it's really nice to get to just talk baseball with I don't even care who you like. So I think it really is. I think you're bringing a lot of positivity to people.
Well, thank you. I try to be. I mean, I don't want to be that guy that's I don't want to be a troll. I want to be part of the solution, not part of the problem. That's really that's my thing. And it really doesn't, serve in any way, by, putting, garbage on the internet. There's plenty of people that do that. And as you said yourself, you got a lot of trolls. It's the world we live in. It's a waste of energy. It's a waste of time. I'm a big believer in, you control what you can control. You can control what you say, you can control what you can't say, you can control what you value, whose opinions you value. There's just, too little time in the world to waste energy on people that, want to deconstruct you and bring you down.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. And again, I think it's why I look for it. And then when you started tagging me in them, I felt like, oh, I'd made it. That was pretty cool. So thank you for that.
If you appreciate it, I'll tag you. I'm a serial tagger.
I do. I look forward to it.
It's always, I do get some people that say they don't want to be tagged. It's a little disheartening, when they don't want to. But I understand it. I respect it. And I say, look, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. The whole idea is to just, share my enthusiasm, of the Yankees and hats.
Yeah. And again, and I just don't see what the big deal is. You're not tagging people in anything that's not positive. And I think that's the thing. Speaking with the Yankees and we did our Major League breakdown on the show, and I basically had my top three teams is probably the Yankees and the Dodgers together, and then the Astros, but that gap is wide.
Yeah.
Yankees are loaded for bear, probably the second deepest team, but maybe the most talented team in major leagues. When you hear about a 16-team playoff, though, that doesn't help Yankee fans or Dodger fans or Astros fans or I don't know who else is dominant, because really all that does is open you up to get snuck in on a 16, the 16th ranked team. What were your thoughts being, when you heard about that part of the adaptation of the season?
James, I love it. I love the whole thing. I know that's not the common answer. I know that's not the popular answer, but I love it. One of the things about me is I stand on the side of I'm open to change. I'm open to baseball evolving. I'm open to doing things differently. I'm open to understanding that, in 2020, it's not a normal season.
Right.
So to me, I'm really excited about the idea that we can experiment and we can do all of these things. And I think, as much as I love the Yankees, I like the idea that, with the 16-team playoff, it's possible for any team to be a dark horse and maybe, get a couple wins and somehow get into the league championship series and maybe sneak their way into the World Series. I love it. I mean, that's what baseball is. You've got to earn those wins, and it's not always about necessarily the best team, but who the hottest team is. That's the way that the game is set up. That's the way that this playoff system is set up. So it doesn't bother me at all. Now, of course, if the Yankees lose in the first round, I might feel a little differently about that. But I try to be objective about it. I think it's a great thing, and I think if it gets more fans involved, then that is that's a terrific thing. I'm really for a lot of changes. If I was commissioner, there'd be a lot of changes I would make.
Can we nominate you to be commissioner?
Thank you.
Do I have that power as a?
The rest of Baseball Nation can be happy. I'll never be commissioner, so my rules will never.
Yeah, I do like I like the concept of expanded playoffs for those same reasons. It'll keep teams from kind of checking out halfway. I felt like 16, but maybe you're right. In 2020, you got to maybe that is the best way to get the best team is by letting more people in. All right, so
I share also, I don't mean to interrupt, but I also thought that I didn't think that they were going to start baseball in July. I thought if they were lucky, they'd get started in September. And I thought that, in lieu of a conventional season, it would be more of a World Baseball Classic-like tournament where every team is playing to get into the playoffs, and then you have your conventional playoffs. So that's what I sort of expected to happen during the season. So again, that's why I have no qualms at all about the 16-team playoff. And as I alluded to, I watched the World Baseball Classic, and I really like that. I mean, that is a fun tournament. I mean, if you love baseball, you got to watch the World Baseball Classic. And I'm very disappointed that there was no tournament this year. We've got some fans.
We've got some visitors back there. Hello, ladies. So let's go back to your hats then as we wrap up. What are some of your favorites? Did you bring any to show us?
It's really hard to come up with a favorite hat, when you've got like 800 hats. But I do have some select ones.
Let's take a look.
This is the 2015 BP cap. Whatever it is about it, I really like that it's got the white visor and it's got the midnight navy on the cap. It's a very different look. And I love this cap so much, I bought about a dozen of them. I'm going to have this cap till I'm in my 90s. What I do is when a cap is about 4 years old, I discard it and I replace it with a new one. So I've got this one for a long period of time.
Okay.
This is called the FC Gray series.
Oh, that one's nice.
Yeah. This one gets a lot of compliments. It's just the tone of the gray. It's got a black logo, black visor. It's a great two-tone. This one came out in about 2016. I just love the way it looks, and it works well with leisure wear, and it works well with suit and tie, jacket and tie. This is one that I really like. The twist.
Oh, that's sharp too.
Yeah, I like the navy. I like the way the colors blend. They definitely hit the cones and retinas in just the right way. Definitely one of my favorite caps. I've got numerous duplicates of this one. Couldn't get enough of it. Really like the 2019 Father's Day cap. I really like the idea that they had with this one. This was an interesting one because when I first saw it, I didn't really like it too much. Then when I went into the store and put it in my hands and tried it on my head, I really liked the way that it looked. And gets a lot of compliments and, got a few duplicates of this one as well.
Okay.
Other one, let's see. This is a new one. Now, what I've said on Twitter, I don't keep all my caps like out and about. I keep them in bags. I have them stored away. And what I do is every month is my own personal cap day. The first of the month, I go into one of my bags. I take out a new cap and I put it into the rotation, as I call it. So this one has just been recently put in the rotation. And I can tell you how long I've had it also because on the inside, I put the date when I...
oh, wow.
You got to keep a record, when you have like 800 hats, there's got to be order to it.
I bet you do.
Here's another one that I really like. I like the oatmeal and the black. It's got a nice subtle brown outline. It's made of leather on the logo.
Oh, cool.
Really cool looking hat. Got a nice little side patch that complements it also. It's different, and I just like the colorway of it. And if you were to ask me what is my favorite cap, like if I had to decipher one cap out of the whole collection, for whatever reason, this G Wooling. It's got a gray wool visor. It's got the very dark gray logo on it, black with the eyelets and the little squatchy here on top. This was one of my first fashion caps. And for whatever reason, I designate it as my favorite cap. I love this cap every time I put it on. I feel like a power. I feel like I'm looking good, dressing nice,
Nice.
Really doing it well, So
there we go.
This is the one.
So I want to make a deal with you. I am coming to my first Yankee game next year. I will make sure you know when I'm coming, and I'm going to have you pick out a hat for me in the pro shop, and I will.
You're talking to the right guy.
And I will wear it. Spencer, thanks so much for taking the time to be on Let's Get To.
Hey, thanks for having me, James. Have a good night.
Raiders of the Lost Diamond, a look into baseball's past.
So one of the things that we're excited about on Let's Get To is that Andrew Nelson's going to be joining in to help us with some Raiders of the Lost Diamond. You're not quite Belloc because he was the bad guy, but Andrew, how's it going, man?
Good. How are you, Jim?
I'm good. I feel like it's like reading Rainbow. What are we going to learn about today?
Well, what's the first thing that you think of when you hear Sonoma County, California?
Wine.
That's what most people would think. And that's probably why baseball didn't last that long.
Okay.
So today we're going to talk about the Redwood Pioneers, who were a minor league team that played in Rohnert Park, California in the early 80s. Played there from 1980 to 1985. They moved up there from Santa Clara. They were the Santa Clara Padres originally. Padres, oddly enough, not actually affiliated with the Padres. They were an oddity of the time. They were a co-op team, so they had 5 different teams that made up their roster. So not quite independent, but not affiliated with one team either.
Okay.
For the first year that the Pioneers played up in Rohnert Park, they were also a co-op team. Hosted players from I believe 4 or 5 different teams, if I remember correctly. They also played at a junior high stadium their first year. They played at Mountain Meadows Middle School while their team was being built. Yeah, the Pioneers are a very minor league story. But in 1981, they picked up an affiliation with the California Angels, who they would stay affiliated with for the rest of their existence as the Pioneers. They had a really great. Can we get into some sartorial things?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
they had some really great uniforms. So it was very Angels style without being just like a total ripoff of the Angels uniform. So they had Pioneers in this sort of peaked, they had the letters form like a peak. Mm-hmm. Across the front in Angels colors. And then their cap was an RP offset with a little halo above the R. So a nice touch in that, like it tied into their major league club, but wasn't a total, just a rip-off of the major league club's teams. Their primary logo was a trapper-looking guy swinging a redwood tree. It's amazing. I highly recommend looking it up.
Yeah, we'll find it. We'll find it for the graphic.
Yeah. So, and that also ties into their mascot. So their original mascot was Redwood Rooster, who they only had for their first year or so. couldn't find any pictures of him. I assume he's pretty unremarkable. But their mascot for most of their existence was Pioneer Pete, who was the guy who dressed up in buckskins and a coonskin cap and hung around in the bleachers there at Ronan Park.
It's funny that you say that because the West Virginia Mountaineer, West Virginia Mountaineer. I buy that for West Virginia. I don't know if that plays for Sonoma, California for me.
Yeah, you don't think about that necessarily, but a lot of the early settlement of California was mountain men and trappers, particularly before the gold rush happened. But even then, it was still a little rough until it got more settled.
Sure.
So, like I said earlier, the Pioneers existed for 5 years, and they did have a couple of really good seasons, and they had a couple not so great seasons. So, their two really remarkable seasons were 1983 and 1984. In 1983, they took third place during the regular season with a 73-65 record, but ended up winning the California League Championship in the playoffs.
Okay.
They also, I believe that's the year that they set they played in the game that set the Class A attendance record, the all-time Class A attendance record, where they played a 2-game series at Jack Murphy Stadium, which was currently the home of the Padres.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Against the Reno Padres. So it was a special event they put on around the 4th of July where they played a 2-game series, and 30-some thousand people came to watch a minor league game.
Wow.
Yeah. Probably a record that'll never be touched.
Never be touched.
I imagine it was quite an experience for those young players. They had a few minor league or guys who made the majors on that 83 team. A catcher named Ed Ott, who well, he was really kind of ending his career with them. Unfortunately, he only played a couple games with them. He'd been with the Pirates for 7 years before he got traded to the Angels and just kind of petered out, unfortunately. But Urbano Lugo, who was a pitcher for the Pioneers, ended up playing 6 years in the majors with the Angels, Expos, and Tigers. And Kurt McCaskill also made the majors from the Pioneers as pitcher. And he spent 12 years in the majors, mostly with the Angels, and then the last few years with the White Sox. Yeah, the 84 team was the best overall team of the run. They went 91-48, one of the best records of a California League team to this day. Ended up losing the first round of the playoffs to
That's how that happened.
So the Modesto A's, headed by none other than Jose Canseco. But they were a really standout team. They had tons of major league talent on that team. Mark McLemore was the second baseman with them. A 19-year major league career with the Angels, Indians, Astros, Orioles, Rangers, and Mariners, and A's. In those 19 years, he racked up a whopping 9.6 WAR. For reference. Hit 108 home runs, career batting average of 239. Probably the standout position player was Devon Devo White, who also had a long major league career. He had 17 years in the majors with the Angels, Blue Jays, Marlins, Diamondbacks, Dodgers, and Brewers, and racked up a respectable 47.3 WAR with 208 home runs and a 263 lifetime major league batting average. They also had a few pitchers who made the majors, not as remarkable as the position players, but Don Oz, I think it is. It's AASE.
Okay.
Who was an all-star in 84, actually. He didn't stick around with the minor league team too long. Played 12 years in the majors, had a 3.80 lifetime ERA in the majors, but didn't really rack up too much of a he was kind of an average sort of guy, 15 WAR for a career. So,
a journeyman, a respectable journeyman.
Yeah, exactly. A couple other guys, T.R. Bryden and Bob. He was only made the Angels for a year, not a huge guy. But Bob Kipper, who was another pitcher, made and was pitcher of the year for the California League. Made majors for 8 seasons with the Pirates, Angels, and finished off his career with my hometown Twins. Didn't do much for them, unfortunately. And later was a manager of Cincinnati Reds for a few years. Managed the Reds from 2014 to 2018. And the California League Manager of the Year was also the Pioneers manager, Tom Kochman, who had a really long career as a minor league manager, but never quite made it to the majors. In 85, they kind of fell off a cliff again.
Yeah.
70 and 76 for third place in their Northern Division in the California League. No real big recognizable names. They didn't do well, so the team got sold and moved to Palm Springs, where they were the Palm Springs Angels from 1986 to 1993. And then in 1993, they moved to Lake Elsinore and became the Lake Elsinore Storm, which they currently still are, one of the big recognizable brands of minor league baseball.
Very cool. Speaking of your Twins and speaking of stuff, as we kind of move out, we're recording this a little early before the episode drops, so who knows what can happen. The Marlins and Yankees and Phillies and Orioles, everybody's shut down.
Yeah.
You think we're going to finish the season?
I don't know, man. I'm really of two minds about it. Half of me thinks that going by some of Rob Manfred's earlier comments about competitive integrity or something like that. If teams are going to miss significant time, or if they're going to try to redo a significant amount of games in their already short season and with expanded playoffs too, and that's going to be really hard. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if they just blow it up. If they just say, we tried, guys, it's too hard. The other half of me would not at all be surprised if they were like, well, somebody's going to die, but we're going to have baseball because we need to make that. We need to make that money. That whole last minute announced expanded playoff.
It all feels weird, man.
It's all just a cash grab. So it's hard to believe that motivation is not really strong.
Go Astros, a focus on H-Town hardball.
All right, we are jumping in it with Andy Tom Chesson on our Go Astros segment. And even though we keep it positive on this show, I would like to disappoint all our Yankee fans who I know are tuning in for one of our guests that we will not be discussing Aaron Judge's 6 home runs. You have other small outlets like ESPN and Fox Sports and so
literally all other baseball media.
All other baseball media. No, this is your friendly Astros segment. And look, we could have gone a lot of directions with this. The Astros, especially when you look at it through the Astros lens, it looks like the cast of MASH has a better chance of being on the bump than any of the people on our projected bullpen. But the fact is they're 5-4. 2 of those losses, I think most people think is the best team in the league, in which if they had some situational hitting, could have won one of those games at least. Overall, man, where do you feel like we're at with the 5-4 start?
I think 3 of those losses were regrettable. I think the loss to Seattle shouldn't have happened. We came back, shouldn't have lost that game. I think that you had the second game in Anaheim wrapped up, and then your closer gets hurt, and you go to extra innings and lose that game, which is just so 2020. It's beyond.
Yeah, and I was going to say we're both Catholic. Good one. Yeah. It's funny. Yeah.
So if you could split with the Dodgers, then you're really looking at a record that's a lot closer to what the Yankees or the Dodgers are doing. But baseball is what it is. The result is at the end of the game, we're 5-4. We're also 5-4 with leading the league in runs, even though none of our expected hitters are hitting.
Right.
We're averaging almost 6 runs a game. That includes 2 just goose egg kind of performances against the Dodgers where we only scored 2 apiece. We are 3rd in the AL in run differential, which is
I think is the key stat. That is the key stat for me.
Well, I think over time, that's the stat that most proves what your record's going to be. So everybody's super behind Minnesota, who I think is like plus 22. Yankees are plus 14. We're plus 11. There's only one other plus team in the entire American League right now. Yes, small sample size, but this is very consistent where the Astros have been really since 2015, 2016 from an offensive standpoint. So the big problem for the Astros, and I think the big reason for your 5-4 record beyond the rookies, beyond the injuries, is the fact that we're averaging 5.5 walks a game allowed. That's a lot. And that's even not counting. Josh James hasn't appeared in all those games. Although with his 11 walks, you might assume he has. He's only been in 2 games. In 6 innings. I walked 11 people.
I might be the only one in Astros Nation who still believes in Josh James, but maybe, I don't know, maybe I've got to sell on him. I did listen to a very exasperated Jeff Blum on the broadcast yesterday going, you've got all-star infielders.
And I think that's the big issue for James. I don't want to, bust on Andre Scrub because anything we get from him is a bonus. He is what we got for Tyler White.
Right.
So the fact this guy isn't eating pizza on second base is, it's a positive. But he's had 6 walks. James is a guy who needs to stop nibbling, who just needs to throw fastballs, throw his pitches, work his counts, and let his defense play behind him, to your point. It amazes me that he is somebody who can throw 98 miles an hour and is trying to nibble.
Right.
It's silly, and it's silly to watch, and it's painful to watch. And that game yesterday, even before extra innings, was almost 5 hours before we got into extra innings because of the 602 walks between the 2 teams.
That is not a game you say, hey, do you want to see what baseball is? Let me show you to someone who's
Yeah, I mean, hey, we're doing everything we can to speed up baseball, except we can't control the fact that none of our pitchers can throw the ball over the plate.
Well, and I do feel like, 6 of those runs score because of 2 bad calls by the umps on both sides.
Yeah, the umps, I think, universally have been really, really bad. And I think one of the things you're seeing is the argument for spring training being as long as it is. I know every player in baseball complains, and every fan in baseball complains, and every media person especially complains about the length of spring training and the time they have to spend in dusty little towns in Arizona and sleepy little towns in Florida. But the reality is what you're seeing right now, both injuries and just a poor quality of play and a poor quality of umpiring, is the fact that these guys are now into week 5, which is about where they would be at almost the end of a spring training series. Instead, they've played 2 weeks of games.
Let's dive into some of the positivity. I know that
was that what we're doing today?
That's what we're doing. Jeff Luhnow obviously has a reputation of not being someone people like, I think due largely to his personality. And I mean, honestly, he comes off as a prick. One thing no one doubts about him is talent evaluation. And I think about going into this season when the narrative around the game was, look how bad the Astros farm system is. And I think a lot of people within the Astros were saying, it's better than you think.
Right.
You think Jeff Luhnow is a little proud of the fact that some of these guys no one's heard of are coming up and they're pitching really well?
I think despite the idea that baseball has taken a step forward analytically, and the Astros certainly been on the forefront of that with the Rays and the Dodgers and some other teams, is that baseball men, by and large, still look at the physical product of a player and try to make evaluations and project from that. It's the Billy Beane syndrome kind of all over, where if you are somebody like Christian Javier, who's done nothing but win and throw strikes in your entire minor league career, but you're only 5'8", 5'9", not 6 foot, you're discounted because of that. And Oli Paredes is discounted because he's maybe 5'7". And that's just, it's part of that evaluation piece is, well, he's not big, so doesn't have endurance, even though their history doesn't prove any of that. And I think you're seeing a lot of that. And that's one of the things Lunau did was, and that's the whole point of analytics in baseball and Moneyball and whatever you want to call it, is finding things that help you win that are undervalued by the market. For the longest time, that was on-base percentage, which the Astros are first of the American League in, by the way. Even with Altuve not hitting, Bregman not hitting, Springer not hitting, Gurriel only starting hitting the last couple of days. So you take those undervalued stats, those undervalued production pieces, and you can build a team around that. And so you have somebody like a Christian Javier, have somebody like a Blake Taylor, who can come out of nowhere and continue to perform, even when they're in the major leagues facing supposedly the best hitters in the world, because they are still pitching to their strengths. They're still doing those things that got them to this point. And so that's what you're seeing by and large. The walks are concerning as a franchise. The walks are concerning. You can't continue to average nearly 6 walks a game allowed. But a lot of that's nerves when you've got 9 rookies in your bullpen.
Yeah.
I think a lot. I just think one of the things Lunau will be forever discounted from is being able to find diamonds in the rough. Blake Taylor is not somebody that should be doing anything for us right now. And we traded, I think, Jake Marisnick for him, who was not going to really have a role on our team this year. So you're getting value from a guy that's going to do nothing and eventually leave as a free agent because there's replacements available, and getting a guy who is probably going to be your closer for the next couple of weeks, if not the rest of the season, the way things are shaking out with Cartel Osuna.
Well, I want to talk a little bit about, you and I used to joke all last season, good Fromber, bad Fromber, good Fromber, bad Fromber. Are we done asking that question?
You talk about, there's some outlying stats. You talk about walks. I've mentioned it a couple of times already. He's made 3 appearances and only given up 2 walks. He's got a super low whip, walks and hits per innings pitched. And you're seeing success with that. You're seeing a guy who, and I think it's interesting for him, I think he struggles more in starts than he does in really long relief. It's almost like he would be the pitcher that if you were going to go to the opener concept, he'd be a great guy to come in second and pitch 5 innings, 6 innings. For some reason, that first inning, and this may be completely anecdotal, feels like a struggle for him. Once he can get through that and have some success, he's pretty much good for the rest of the game. And this season so far, 10 strikeouts in his 2 appearances, he's pitched the first most innings on the game on the team. He's got a whip of 1.03, average against a 220, which is a little bit high, but he's not walking people, so those hits that he is allowing aren't killing him.
Right.
And he's not giving up the long ball. And he's always had major league plus stuff. It's just he's been so wild, you didn't have to try to hit it. You just had to wait for him to put you on base. So if he's able to turn a corner, that's a fantastic thing for a rotation that needs some good news, because frankly, there hasn't been a lot of it so far.
His curveball yesterday was falling off the table. It was gross.
And that's him at his best. Absolutely. Yeah. And the Angels are a good hitting team. So they've got professional hitters in that lineup. So the fact he's able to do that, and they're a team that saw him a lot last year, is a good thing for the Astros, and it's a good thing for Fromber and his development.
One of the things that I wanted to ask you about, and I'm actually going to use the Yankees as a possible example in this, Manfred has pretty much said that there would be no real way to make these games up, that we're going to essentially, they'll be going off of win percentage proceeding. Now, let's say the Yankees do get their games in, because they should be able to make theirs up. And right now, Aaron Judge is probably the best hitting player in the game. Why is it, doesn't it seem a little, I hate to use the word unfair, but unfair is the right word. Let's say he got to play a full 60 and blows his Achilles on game 60, and a team like, I don't know, Miami Marlins get in and they can do it playing 50 games. Doesn't it seem like you have to have some kind of equity, or do we just not care? We're going week by week with all this.
Honestly, well, I mean, this new revelation that we're probably not going to be able to make up some of these games, that's new from 2 days ago when we were doing 7-inning doubleheaders. And that's new from a week ago when we had no plan at all. So the fact that we're now acknowledging, well, we're probably not going to be able to fit in an extra 10 games if the Marlins continue to not tell people that they have positive test results. I'm glad he's
St. Louis letting it all roll on black.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad he's acknowledging the reality of the situation. And I think at some point this season we're going to have to accept a little what I'm going to call creativity, because I'm being positive, with the standings, with the playoff seedings. And honestly, we're in a world where 16 teams are going to make the playoffs. There's going to be some questionable choices in there anyway. I think where it's going to become an issue is if a team like the beloved Yankees somehow loses to an Orioles franchise who backdoors in with that number 16 slot. And then how did they even make the playoffs? This is ridiculous. And this whole thing is illegitimate. And this whole season's a mess. If it gets finished, it's a minor miracle. I'm still not convinced it's going to be finished. I still think that knowing that Manfred put all of the media partners on notice that technically today they should have had backup programming available for themselves. I think that was last Thursday he did that. Everything is going to be just week by week, day by day, really. And whatever happens next is going to determine what our action is on that next thing. So it's a mess. So I see a world where the Marlins still don't make the playoffs, but they could, only playing 50 games. And if you really want to get into gamesmanship, if you're the Yankees and you get up so far on your division and maybe even the rest of the American League from a wins percentage that it doesn't matter, why wouldn't you just claim your whole team is sick for the last 10 games and not jeopardize it? We played 50. We're good, and we're doing private test results. We're all negative, positive right now. So don't come around.
I mean, but if you're them, why could you blame them? I mean, the Astros look like they're going to be in a dogfight for the division. With this first game with Arizona, it is going to be 16 games in a row. I think the home games become way more important. What is your outlook on the division, or do you take a step back and say, you know what, they're 5-2 against the division. The only 2 losses came against the Dodgers team that the other teams are going to have to play as well.
I mean, I think the Astros are still head and shoulders above the division. I just think those shoulders have gotten a little droopier with the loss of Verlander. I don't see – and obviously things could change over these last what do we have, 52 games left, 51 games left. I think the A's are still the primary competition. They've had some offensive struggles. They have many pitching questions, maybe as many as we do. I don't think they've had quite the level of injury, but they also haven't lost to Justin Verlander. So, they're a little bit ahead of us from a starting rotation standpoint. But I think we've seen Seattle, Anaheim, looks like Anaheim has looked, despite the addition of Joe Madden and their new third baseman. They're still a team that doesn't have enough pitching to be a series contender, even game to game. And the Rangers have looked really, really bad so far, and they're having injury problems in their rotation as well. So, which is a theme of 2020. Right. So I think the Astros are still very capable of winning the division. I think these 3 games coming up this weekend against Oakland will kind of tell the tale of where they are against the primary competition. But even then, you hope to win the series. But if you take one of 3 and you still come out tied for the lead of the division, the rest of the schedule looks pretty favorable for the next few weeks with some of the teams you get to face, and you have an opportunity to make some space. If the Astros continue to score 2 more runs than they're allowing, even though they're allowing way too many runs, they're a team that's going to win the division. I think the A's are -3 from a run differential standpoint. In theory, they should be a game under, based on the Pythagorean theorem, they should be a game under 500 right now, and they're a game over. So, not too far off. The Astros have played down to their competition a little bit. And I've got to believe that our hitting is going to warm up at some point. You saw signs of it this weekend with Springer. You saw signs of it yesterday with Bregman. Altuve's got to come around. Gurriel's got to get consistent. And Brantley and Correa, if they can maintain, and then you get Alvarez back maybe in a week, you're still as potent, if not more potent than any other lineup in the American League.
Okay, let's leave with one last thing. Then you shared a stat with me on social media, just to paint the picture of the injured pitchers versus the percentage of which the Astros have.
Well, I was just doing some quick math, and I realized there could be any reason for any of these pitchers to be on the injured list. But as of last night, there were 113 pitchers on the injured list across Major League Baseball. So right now, with rosters being at 30 men, there's 900 available positions. That means 13% of your active rosters are injured pitchers. That's a huge number. And most of that has happened since the season started in these first 2 weeks. So there's been a lot of movement dumping players onto the IL because you have pitchers with sore shoulders, sore elbows, tender forearms, what have you. You saw it yesterday with Ohtani, whose velocity dropped from the first inning to the second inning, almost 7 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And that's horrible for a guy coming off Tommy John surgery. This was supposed to be his comeback year. And you feel bad for him. So it's, again, a symptom of pushing these guys to have a regular spring training, cut that short, be off for 3 months, and then try to get back to game speed in 3 weeks with playing I guess most teams played 2 if they played any kind of games against any other teams. There is nothing that replicates game speed. There is nothing that replicates game effort, and that's just human nature. So throwing against your teammates in simulated games, that doesn't do much from a training perspective. You get your reps in, fantastic, but your endurance, I mean, you see Greinke, who I'm not concerned about at all because his underlying numbers are good, even though he hasn't really got a result out of any of it yet. His endurance is poor, and this is a guy that needs the reps for endurance.
And he was very open about that in his post game.
Yeah, absolutely. His ERA sucks, but his whip's good. His batting average against is good. I'm far less concerned about him than I am against a guy like Josh James, who needs to just throw strikes and doesn't seem to have the ability to do that. You
just don't throw any strikes to Albert Pujols.
I mean, even if you did, I think the issue was that he threw so many balls, and then you have to throw a strike. Even Pujols, who needs a rascal to get around the bases these days, can turn on that.
All right, that seems like a good place to wrap it up, Andy. We'll be back next week, and hopefully with in the middle of a really long stretch of games. Good for us, bad for them.
Yeah, it's good. I got a phone call. I might be starting for the Astros on Tuesday. Nobody seems to know who is starting, so it might be me.
And now, on to close it out, the right-hander from Houston, Texas, James Christopher.
So that does wrap us up. And I'm going to go a little bit against my thesis at the beginning when I talked about being nice on Twitter. And the exception is for Jeff Passan, John Heyman, and Buster Olney. If you are going to hold yourself up as a journalist while also behaving like a troll, getting negative pushback to your comments is part and parcel and something you're asking for. So John Heyman, who has been going into the DMs of people and telling them to fuck off. Why did I whisper? What are you doing? First of all, to do it to at least 2 of the 3 women that have posted about it in 2020, that's not very employable, man. So I would probably stop. But second, like you're asking about it, like Buster Olney going off on the Astros, tear down, tanking, whatever you want to call it. If you can't understand why the Astros felt like in an economic system that doesn't actually benefit teams of that size, that you have to start by rebuilding the farm system, then I cannot help you. And your claims that they were doing it while charging full price are completely inaccurate. I was paying $5-10 to sit above the dugout in an Astros game with 900 of my closest friends. You're not even getting it right. If you're going to be that, if you're going to throw bombs, if you're going to feed off the lowest common denominator, which unfortunately drives Twitter, you have to have a thicker skin, turn your notifications off or something, but going into people's DMs and telling them to go F themselves, is ridiculous, and maybe just further proof of just how silly this whole simulation that we're living in is, that I'm doing my best to navigate. So I'm probably going to unsubscribe from The Athletic because why pay to read that stuff? You know, even though I'm going to miss really good reporting from Ken Rosenthal and the like, but I don't even know if it's worth it anymore. So that is our show. We're going to be back on Friday. We will be heading to O'Fallon this weekend. So we're going to talk to the O'Fallon Hoots before we head out. The Portland Pickles are going to be here, and I've got some new merch to unbox. I can't wait. So please enjoy your week. I hope that your teams do well. I hope your teams stay healthy. That seems to be the theme right now. And I really hope that we get a handle on this COVID thing. We'll talk a little bit more about that on Friday. So until next time, let's get to